It was the kind of November afternoon in Chicago where the cold air bit your face, but the vibrant energy of the city kept your spirit alive. Michigan Avenue was alive with the sound of honking cars, the chatter of tourists, and the rhythm of hurrying footsteps on the sidewalk. Among the crowd was a figure who stood out, not for his fame, but for his friendly demeanor and warm smile. Dressed in a navy blue overcoat and wearing his trademark aviator glasses, he was none other than Joe Biden. He had just finished a critical meeting downtown, but decided to forgo the usual motorcade. Instead, he chose to walk, soaking up the energy of the city. As he passed Millennium Park, admiring the towering skyscrapers and festive storefronts, he noticed something unusual. In a corner, leaning against the cold stone of a building, was a woman. Her clothes were tattered, her hands shaking as she held a worn cardboard sign. "Veteran in need. Please help." Biden paused mid-step. The world seemed to keep spinning. Around him, the hectic crowd barely noticed the woman, but he couldn't look away. There was something in her eyes, a mixture of exhaustion and quiet resilience, and it tugged at his heart. Without hesitation, he changed direction and approached her, kneeling at her level. "Ma'am." He began gently, his voice soft but firm. "What is your name?" The woman looked up, startled. She was not used to people stopping, especially not someone as familiar as Joe Biden. Her voice trembled as she answered, "I'm Teresa. Teresa Hensley." "Teresa," Biden repeated, as if committing it to memory. "Are you a veteran?" "Yes, sir," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I served in the army for 12 years, got wounded overseas, and nothing's been the same since." Biden nodded slowly, his expression full of understanding. He had always been an advocate for veterans, often speaking of their sacrifice and the need to support them. But here, right in front of him, it was a stark reminder of how much work remained to be done. "Why are you here, Teresa?" he asked, gently. Teresa hesitated, looking away as if embarrassed. "I lost my apartment months ago, and after I was laid off I couldn't keep up with the rent. I'm trying to stand on my own 2 feet, but it's hard." Her words trailed off but landed, like a punch in Biden's gut. This woman had spent years serving her country, and now she was left to fend for herself on the streets. It wasn't right, and he knew he couldn't just walk away. "Teresa," he said in a determined voice, "you have done enough for this country. Now it's time for us to do something for you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out his cell phone. "Wait here," he said, and took a few steps away as he dialed. Margaret, his assistant at the other end, answered immediately. "Margaret," she said in an urgent tone, "I need you to find the nearest hotel with a vacancy and arrange for a doctor to meet us there, and call a veteran support organisation, one that specialises in getting people back on their feet. Make it happen now." Turning to Teresa, Biden crouched down again. "Help is on the way," he assured her with a warm smile. "But first, let's get you something to eat." He pointed to a nearby food vendor and bought her a steaming bowl of soup and a sandwich. Biden didn't stand still while Teresa ate. He sat next to her on the cold sidewalk, ignoring the curious glances of passers-by. "So," he said, breaking the silence, "tell me about yourself." Teresa hesitated at first, unsure how much to share. But something in Biden's sincere interest and kind gaze pushed her to open up. She talked about her time in the army, the friends she lost, and the injury that ended her career. He described the difficult transition to civilian life, the mounting bills and the despair that followed. Biden listened intently, nodding along, his expression a mixture of empathy and determination. Minutes later, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb. His assistant had worked fast. The driver got out and held the door open. Biden stood up and offered Teresa his hand. "Come," he said gently. "Let's get you somewhere safe." Teresa hesitated, tears welling in her eyes. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asked, her voice cracking. Biden's expression softened. because no one should have to go through this alone. You have served us, now it is our turn to serve you. The jeep took them to a nearby luxury hotel, where staff prepared by Margaret treated Teresa like a VIP. She was taken to a suite on the top floor, complete with a hot shower, clean clothes, and a warm bed. A doctor arrived shortly afterward, performed a thorough checkup and prescribed medication for her ailments. Meanwhile, Biden continued making calls. He reached out to Veterans United Support Services, explaining Teresa's situation in detail. By the next morning, the organisation had arranged temporary housing for her, as well as job training and counselling. Before he left, Biden handed Teresa a cheque to cover her immediate expenses. She looked at him, her hands shaking, not from the cold this time, but from overwhelming gratitude. "Mr. Biden," she said, her voice steady now, "I don't even know how to thank you. You've given me hope when I thought there wasn't any left." Biden smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Teresa, you don't owe me a thing. Just promise me one thing. When you're back on your feet, pay it forward." "I will," she said, determination glinting in her eyes. As Biden stepped back out onto Michigan Avenue, the bustling city seemed just a little brighter. In the span of a few hours, one life had been transformed, and for Teresa Hensley, the future suddenly looked hopeful, and that's the end of this inspiring story. If it moved you as much as it did us, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.